Welcome back, everybody, to another episode at Next in Line. Again, our mission stays the same, which is all about paying it forward to the community. So here today, we have a really cool guest, Jeff Green. I'd love for him to introduce himself, what he's all about, how he got into the IT, into our industry, and the kind of the road to that CIO. I'd love for him to share his story. Jeff, tell us a little about yourself and how you got into this industry.
Sure. I am Jeff Green. I'm the CIO currently at Strike Construction here in the Houston area. I've been in IT for almost 30 years now.
Sorry.
Just kind of how I got started. It's kind of one of those old school. I started on the help desk. I had bounced around on a couple of jobs during college, after college, and then just got an opportunity with the marketing company. A friend of a friend referred me. They knew I liked computers, and that's where my degree was and everything. And so
Okay.
kind of got into it that way and got on board, and then, moved up in that company and moved to the next company, and just next step, next step, next step.
Kept on getting tapped on the shoulder.
Yeah.
That's excellent. So you went to schools. Where'd you go to school, Jeff?
I went to the University of North Texas in Denton, just north of Dallas there.
Just north of Dallas. Okay.
Yep.
So you stayed, and you're born and raised in Dallas. How
Not
far
too,
is that for like North Texas University from home?
it's about 35. It's more 35 miles. It's more of a commuter school, or it used to be. They're now Division I school, so
They
they're
are.
actually, they're
Yeah.
actually undefeated this season.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
but
So
they're doing pretty.
are you supporting them like behind it? What do you think? They got some money? How did it all happen for them?
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Here and there, supporting them. I mean, I don't. Again, they're not a. When I was there, it was a commuter school. We were Division II,
Mm,
and I don't follow them as much as probably I should, but it's still. I see in the background my wife and I, because we went to the same school. We grew up, in Mesquite and went to high school together. That's how we met. But
oh, wow. Congrats.
so yeah, thanks. And so we both went there, and she'll text me, "Hey, did you see the North Texas is undefeated?" I'm like, "Yeah, but they're in a bad conference, so it doesn't mean as much, but still it's great."
That's funny. So I have to ask, I'm a married long time myself, 28 years. So you don't hear this anymore too much, right? But so you
Right.
guys are some of the high school sweethearts and
Yep.
school together and all that. Now you're together, and I know talking a little bit of children. So congratulations. What's the secret?
There's a few secrets, but I mean, the key is, there's always the old adage, don't go to bed mad. That
That's
one's
good.
pretty important.
That's
But
a
I
good
think
one.
it's never lose that youthful joy that you have of being with your wife or your
No doubt.
husband, whoever it is. Still have to go have fun together and play. I mean, so I was at a conference a few weeks ago. And she went with me, and it's in Disney World. She always goes with me to most of my conferences at this point.
Oh, that's good.
It's something we made a decision about 10, 15 years ago, that if we travel together and stuff like that and stuff. So, but that being said, but like, we still love going to Disney World. We're
That's
in our
cool.
50s now, and we're like, we don't even need the kids. We just go have fun ourselves.
Yeah, to do that. I heard Epcot is pretty cool right now because they have like I guess like a food thing all around the world. I heard about,
Yeah,
but I heard it's pretty
we didn't
good.
go to Epcot. We went to Epcot last year. But
Mhm.
yeah, they do have the food, and you know, that's more her thing. She likes to go to Epcot, and we go to all the different countries, and you can see exhibits and stuff like that for
That's
sure.
good.
So
But hats off to you, man, because that's really, it's a leadership podcast, but you know, we don't do this alone, right, Jeff?
no,
Right?
no, you
And
can't
and
do it without
your partners,
without a good support system.
absolutely, man. And I thank my wife a lot, man. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, and there's a lot of ups and downs, my friend, right? And the one thing that was consistent is her support. So like I always try to give her some props out there. So the one thing I always share to the young cats out there is like, hey, so why 20, how 28 and all 28 years and all that with kids? I said, well, it's not autopilot. Just remember that.
Right.
Just
Oh
remember
yeah.
that. But growing up together is pretty cool. So you guys know each other inside and all day, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. We
Congrats.
didn't. I mean, we met in high school. Now we grew up
Mhm.
in the same city and everything, but went to different elementaries and junior highs and stuff. But same high school.
Oh, anyone done? So let me ask you: were you kind of going into that just a springboard? Did she went to school with you? Was she also in IT? You went to school for IT, right?
I did, yes. So computer science was
Computer science.
was my degree. No, she is completely the opposite of the spectrum. She was more liberal arts. She was a dancer.
Oh, cool.
So
That's like oh, I know. Did she ever do anything? You ever take her to New York City?
no, we have not been to New York.
It's a good one.
So, but it's on the list. Definitely want to
Good.
go see some Broadway, go see the Rockettes, and everything in New York.
If she's into that, I mean, it's I'm from New York, born and raised, so like I tell you, like it's something you definitely want on. You got it. It's that bucket list thing. So
Yeah.
hopefully you guys. I'm sure she'll appreciate that.
Oh yeah.
So going through college, so you knew you want to be in computer science. So you studied more like on the development side, I understand? Probably a little bit?
Yeah, more on the software development side, yes.
Okay. And then so you got out of school and was that literally the first job you had, or did you kind of do a detour, or was it you got right into the help desk right away?
Kind of I mean, so going through school, I actually worked in a call center.
Okay.
I actually was a manager in a call center for J.C. Penney's, and their credit card call center, there in the
Okay.
Dallas area. Actually, my first, technically, I guess, IT was a part-time job. I was working for doing computer repair for Dell and for Compaq. It was a company that handled
Wow.
all their warranty back when Compaq still existed.
It
Um,
was huge back in the day.
yeah, they were, and so they had the contract to do all their warranties. So I would like actually after class drive around the Metroplex there, almost in Oklahoma, doing computer in-home computer repair and stuff like that.
Wow. So let me ask you this. Thanks for sharing that. Being in help desk, do you feel like I get a lot of feedback about like it's a great place to start because it's like the front door to IT, right? And you
Right.
kind of feel a lot, you're dealing with a lot. Um, what was that? How was that experience for you? Or like, does some of that translate to the way did it kind of springboard you to the next thing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I mean, obviously, a lot of the communication skills that you have to have and be able to talk to people on the help desk are so important in the journey to being an executive at some point, or even just a manager, at any level. You have
That's
to be
right.
able to speak to people, and recognize, and empathize with the problems they're having, and everything. And so I think a lot of that, more than the technical side of it, it's more the people interaction and learning how to do that and learning, what to say, when to say it, and, you know, reading, you- listening to people's voice inflection, what they say and how they say it, because
Sure.
that mean what they are saying may not be actually the problem. You have to listen to how they're saying it, and again, that translates so well into the executive world.
It
When
does.
you're dealing with CEOs, CFOs, and you read, you learn it gets back to that emotional intelligence,
A
being
hundred
able to
percent.
understand, and react to people, and not letting your emotions, especially the other thing I would say on the help desk is not letting your emotions get the best of you, because
Ooh,
people yell at you all the time, and you just got
all
to get
day.
because there's a reason they're calling in. They're having a problem. They're not calling in to say hi. They're
Yeah,
calling in because I've got a problem. I need it fixed. And so, again, you deal with all kinds of people, and you learn to deal with different personalities, for sure.
for sure. So let me ask you. So in help desk, I also learned that a lot of my clients and they share with me, CIO friends, that it's like also an internal recruiting ground,
Oh yeah, definitely.
big time, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I like I say, I got promoted off the help desk into an analytics role.
Okay.
I was actually we were in the way this happened was we were in a meeting with all of IT, and I was walking out talking to somebody else I'd met, in the company and was becoming friends with there in the analytics. And I was talking to him, he was talking about doing something in SQL. And I was like, oh yeah, you do this and this, and he was like, and he kind of looked at me, and then the CIO overheard, and she's like, SQL? What are you doing on the
Oh,
help desk? And I was
yeah,
like, I'm just, yeah, I know SQL. It's classes
sure.
in school, and I dabble at home and stuff, and stuff. And so that small, brief 20 or 30-second conversation,
Yeah.
within a couple of weeks, I was out of the help desk and over on a different group, on the analytics group. So again, it's some of it's, chance, and some of it's, again, it gets back to, if I hadn't had the communication skills to talk to her at that level, I was,
True.
early 20s at that point, uh, you know, you've got
100%.
translate that to the day, for example, on our help desk, we just promoted some of our help desk people into roles outside of the help desk, into network, engineer roles and things of that nature. So again,
That's great.
my experience of being on the help desk is I'm always looking for talent in maybe not the normal places that people want to look for. And
Okay.
so I've been pleasantly surprised throughout my career in that, and finding talent, in the help desk. For Whereas I've hired people with, art degrees to, do
Oh, yeah.
jobs that are in IT, and people are looking at me like, "What are you doing?" She has an art degree. I was like, "Yeah, but she has the aptitude to learn, and she has an analytic mind, which is what I need. I can teach her the IT skills."
My God. High five on that, brother, because let me tell you, I have funny, it's a CIO friend of mine. He said the same thing. He was an art major, right?
Oh yeah,
He became a CIO. But you're right about it's you if you have the critical thinking and just in general, you can coach. So like very much so, like a lot of CIOs and or C-level executives, they're very much scouts as well. You gotta scout and look for traits because you have the right mindset. Like you said, you can teach this stuff, right?
yep,
It's hard to teach the other stuff,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
it's really difficult.
Those, for lack of a better word, those intangible skills,
Yes, sir.
that we're lose. I would say that some of the population, or even as we get into the AI perspective and stuff like that, it's one of those things that you're seeing the kids coming out of college or kids in high school, and even talk to my kids, is that
Mhm.
if you can think and you can draw conclusions without having to ask Google or without having to ask Chat GPT, and you can actually think on your own, we can teach you the other skills you need. But those are going to be the skills that are, you know, so needed going into the future.
I I got just a little bit of a pivot on this because I gotta ask you about this one because you mentioned AI and you mentioned critical like thinking and without trying to ask ChatGPT or Google or whatever. Where's that balance, that fine line, right? Because you can become almost like I'm reading a lot lately, like almost too AI dependent, where you're almost relying completely solely on that, and you're kind of your those instinct skills that you need to kind of continue all that in-game skills I kind of call
Right.
they kind of go away because you may not have that crush all the time to just query. Where do you find that balance?
Yeah, I think that's something that we're striving as a society and as a world to figure out right
Yeah.
now. For me personally, I like to, I'll give it a shot at, if whatever it is, whether it's, I'll even try to do, again, just looking at a math perspective, let's talk about this. There are people that can't go to a restaurant and add up a tip or calculate a tip based on this, or, or we're sitting in a meeting like with my CEO, and he's, yeah, that's a 5% increase over, X number of years and blah, blah, blah. That's this percentage. And I'm spouting out the percentages, or I'm spouting out that's a 5% increase. Why would we do that?
Mm.
And
Without a
again,
calculator?
without a calculator. And it's like, you got to, you just have, if you don't keep those skills, you don't do those little exercises, then you don't keep those skills and you lose them, as you get older, for sure.
Agreed.
But I think that's, like I say, those critical thinking skills and just basic math and memory things are going to become more and more important as we go further. There will be a separation at some point in time in
Yeah.
society where people don't have those skills, and the haves and the have-nots from that perspective. Um, I hate to refer to the movie Idiocracy, but I hope we never get to that point. Let's put it that way.
Mm. Couldn't agree with you more. Let me ask you if you had to give some, your kid or first of all, let me ask you this: Is any of the kids following in the footsteps in IT?
Um, yeah, the youngest one, he
Yeah.
wants to follow in the IT. The oldest one is probably going to also. going to school to be an accountant,
Hmm.
but I kind of cautioned him in that area as that's one of the areas that's going to be harder to get into because of AI and everything. And so he is more of a analytical mind like me. He
Hmm.
likes the data and the analytics. We talked earlier before we started here about sports and everything.
Oh yeah.
That kid
Is
is ridiculous with the amount of data from sports and analytics that he can give you. Like he can give you stats on this player, that player, you
really
know, obscure sports and everything. And so he's really big into that. And I think that's where he'll end up ultimately. And then,
oh
like say,
cool.
my youngest, he will probably end up in the software space or some sort of um, development space, whether that's software, whether it's integrations or something like that. That's the direction he said he wants to go.
Did he pick? Was he that kind of kid like young early on, messing around coding and asking for some support or like tinker
Yeah,
around?
yeah, he
That's
was.
good.
Both of them are super, you know, super high in the math skills.
Oh good.
Now that I will say they suffer in in some of the verbal skills and the social skills, but man, those guys, you give them math problems and
Then knock it out.
they'll knock it out of there. You want to talk analytics, like I say, sports statistics and stuff, and they will talk to you all day about that stuff.
Does your boy? I gotta ask because I'm actually very interested. I gotta talk to your son.
Yeah,
Does he do fantasy and stuff like that? Because sometimes you got to know that stuff on the spot.
yeah,
Fantasy
he
wise.
does. He's
Yeah.
in some fantasy leagues and stuff like that for sure.
Does he want to do like ESPN analyst type track? Yeah.
That's actually what he's talked about is more the ESPN or CBS or some of the analytics behind the scenes that they get for those from like sports center broadcasting and stuff. There's a lot of analytics obviously that goes on behind the scenes.
Oh my
So
God, 100%. So I'm familiar with a little bit about Major League Baseball. So today I just got off the phone. He's going to be on the podcast as well. Do you happen to know Michael Bush he's a CIO of the Colorado Rockies?
not the Colorado Rockies. I know the CIO of the Astros.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. Yeah, I like that. I'm a big Astros guy. So I'll tell you the reason why later. But Mike, he is part of Inspire CIO at the Colorado chapter.
Mm.
He's all time great guy. Like this guy is like the ambassador for like Inspire. Like I think in the whole West Coast. Like he's a great guy. But we were talking heavily about analytics and how useful they are in MLB today. It's all like numbers and
Oh, they
matchups and
use
it just it's interesting for me. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously have, you talk about the start of that is, in the A's whenever they started the analytics and, made the movie
Oh,
Moneyball and everything, but that was
classic.
everything. But even before that, I mean, baseball's all about statistics. I mean, they come up, I'm at the, so I, we went to, speaking of that, we went to the Astros games a few times this year. There's like
Okay.
new statistics that they've come up with that I was like, what is that? And they're talking about these new it's this and this, and I'm like, what is that?
Oh,
And it's
oh
new
yeah.
stats they're tracking now, like on batters and pitchers. And I wish I could give an example, but I just remember looking up the board. I'm like, what is that? And I had to look it up on my phone. I was like, what stat is that?
I what he shared with me today, I couldn't believe it's a quick way. They have literally look at everything. They have humidors because the altitude
Right,
in Colorado because the ball is no humidity, so it can be really hard, and it could be an advantage because the harder the ball, the fly. They
right.
actually came up with humidors and MLB pass, and now they have humidors in every single MLB park because
Wow.
they have to have the competitive landscape. Got to be apples for
Have to,
apples. It can't be an
have to be
advantage.
even. So
Oh yeah.
they keep the balls there till game time and then bring them out.
I couldn't believe. I was like, "Are you serious?" I did. That's the last thing I've ever thought of. A humidor. They took that concept, and there's an engineer actually on the Rockies that actually came up with it, and
Hmm.
it spread out through the whole. So, and one thing I did pick up with him today, what I liked was collaboration. The MLB, they all collaborate with each other, even though
Right.
they're competition, but they're all MLB family, right? But this guy takes another level. He actually meets with them. There's MLB required meetings, but he sets up his own thing every month. These guys meet every single CIO MLB once a month, and they just help each other out. I think that's huge. So I want to pivot there a little bit too, because how big is having that type of network? How is that value? How much value does that bring you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can really measure the value of that. It's definitely one of the things when I became a CIO that you have to have a good network,
Yeah.
of both peers, friends, people you can go to and ask questions, you can bounce things off of, and I'm a member of a few different CIO groups, and then,
Okay.
um, some former CIOs, my predecessor here at Strike, I still text with him every once in a while, and stuff. Um, but those guys that even come up, mentors, I still text with and, talk to, and bounce things off. But the network is, if you're at this level and you don't have a good network, you're not going to last long. If you're a CIO and you don't have a network behind you, again, we talked about earlier, but, you need a good, home network, your wife and the kids and all that kind of stuff.
A
But if you
hundred
don't have
percent.
a professional network, you're, you're not going to last long.
It's like
Um,
not you can't do this thing alone, right? Like
No.
kind of like it's
Yeah,
always a
I mean,
certain.
exactly what you mentioned, I think that, the CIO groups that I'm in,
Mhm.
while we work for competitive companies and even, competitive in the same industry and everything, we do the same thing. We talk to each other and we work, we talk about, I've got this problem. Well, I've got this problem, or
That's
we're doing a network refresh, or who did you use, what vendor did you use for designing this AI, chatbot you were working with and stuff. And so
sure.
we pass those back and forth, and it's so helpful.
Absolutely. Like
And
it's
again,
a safe space.
I couldn't do what I do without a good network.
That's huge. And I'm sure you return the favor. Obviously that's it's like a but how that network it's how tight is that? Small circles, how large? I'm sure there's a tighter circle and it kind of expands a little bit, but you have your
Yeah,
little go-tos.
it's kind of like, it kind of equated to like you look at a target that you're shooting at. You have your bullseye, and you have your outer ring, and you have your ring, next ring, and the next ring like that.
That's
And
a good
so,
example.
yeah, that bullseye ring is pretty tight, and it's a tight group that I've known for probably 5 to 10 years. Everybody in that group or longer. And
Yeah,
then you've got that next level. It's outside of that. It's maybe not as we're acquaintances, but I feel comfortable that with their advice or asking them questions and things like that. So
that's that's huge. That's huge. Like I couldn't agree with you more, man. Having there's something to be said about having a safe conversation where you could just, you
yeah,
know, if you can get like, like I tell people, just like sports, right? There's a reason why, there's mentors. There's a reason why you look at tape. You
right.
gotta get ready for games nowadays. Now they take that to another level. they, they
Oh
know
yeah.
tendencies. They know everything. Let me ask you this. Something from an IT perspective. I've been meaning to ask. I've been asking a lot of folks lately. Right now, like, what's one capability? Let's say an IT organization, just in general, not necessarily yours, right? Got to master in the next 12 months. Right now,
In the next how long?
12 months.
12 months. I don't know that you're gonna be able to master it in 12 months, but hate to use the word, but AI. I mean, if you're not using AI in some form or fashion, um, you're already behind the curve at this point. You
Yeah,
have to have some sort of AI competency, whether that's you as a leader, your team, or doesn't have to necessarily be somebody on your team, but you have to have a good, again, vendor network that has that competency, and you
sure.
have to be doing something with AI. You know, I've got friends in the education industry, and education and construction are two of the lowest adoption of technology. When you look at the various scales, whether that's Gardner or Forrester or whoever, those two industries are the lowest on adoption of technology. But even those groups in education and in construction, which I'm in construction, and again I've got friends in education, they're already doing things with AI, and they're talking about how can they use AI to determine what's going on with the students, and
Absolutely.
everything, and all kinds of use cases, and so we've started down that journey too. But I wouldn't say you have to be like, I don't think you're ever going to know everything because the space is constantly evolving. Like agentic AI is evolving. The next iteration of AI is going to be even better. We don't know what that next tool is going to be or what that next, jump is going to be, but it's coming. But you've got to stay up to date and be prepared and incorporate the technology some way into what you're doing as a company.
My friend, you hit that bullseye. Like, I love it because you're right. You're gonna have to. I think even outside of IT, I think AI literacy or just like ability to learn how to learn on AI is probably a core one. Even on the business, I think it's everyone, not just IT. Like, good opportunity for HR, let's say, and IT to kind of like lock arms a little bit and like every function of every position should be able to, have some form ability to use it because I'd look at it as a competitive advantage,
Oh,
you
it
know?
is. Yeah, and like one of the things we're starting next year is we're starting an AI literacy program. We're
Look at
starting
that.
a program as a company. Um,
That's awesome.
it's something that you again you mentioned it there, whether it's HR, it's legal, or it's finance, or even on our operations side, guys in the field that what can we do to help them learn and see how they can use AI. For example,
Hmm.
um, our director of quality, his newsletter about quality this month was the use of AI in um, quality of welds, in using the being able to evaluate the welds in the field as a quality inspector. How do you do it, and that kind of stuff. So it's moving into all facets of the business, But again, I think one of the things as an IT leader we have to make sure that we're doing as a company is that AI literacy program
I
and
love
getting
it.
it going and kicked off.
And something like that, as a CIO, is that by committee or you leading that charge or you partnering with HR? Like, how does that work?
It's a committee, from with various, and I don't. It doesn't have to be the head of such, said department or whatever.
Yeah.
The key is you have a committee. To me, is never get all the leaders in a room and let's make a decision. It's let's get in the room with the right people and various levels throughout the organization, whether that's your finance clerk, whether that's an HR generalist, or again somebody from IT at various levels. Get all those levels together and don't just let the leaders make all the decisions and pass that down to the company. That never goes well. You've got to have buy-in, but again, you get different perspectives and different opinions and different education levels in that committee, and it's helpful
Those
because
change agents, right? Like
yeah,
those,
you've got to make sure that your education program touches the least common denominator, or that lowest denominator of the person, bring them up to the next level of the people that are
I like
above
that.
them from the education standpoint. You can't just assume everybody's doing research on their own about AI because some
No.
people don't. You know,
How much of a responsibility you think there too? Like, because I agree with you, and I also I like to kind of spread to. I think a lot of team members should take. There's got to be some level of responsibility for self development too. Like this, like you mentioned earlier, like SQL, right? But you also said earlier, I wrote that down. You mess with stuff at home, right? You
right?
were, so you were like improving your skill set, whether you're having fun with it or whatever you were doing. You were taking ownership of your skills, right?
Yep.
So how much, how do you believe in that? Like, is that something you encourage? Like, the guys, there's so many free resources out today,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. I mean, to your point, there are so many free resources out there for education on various topics from IT perspective. I mean, whether that's AI or whatever. Um, and that's what I encourage my people to do because they learn at home, and you know what they do? They come bring it into the office and they share it. So we all get better because they're learning at home.
That's
You know,
right. That's right.
and we're better as a group as we continue to grow and learn individually. And then you bring it into, like, say, you bring it into the group setting, and now we've all learned the new skill.
That's
So
right.
I highly encourage, and that's gets back to that the type of people I look to hire is those ambitious, self-learning, um, critical thinkers. If you got those kind of people, they're doing that on their own. But definitely, again, it's one of those things I highly encourage that people, you know, if you're not learning and you're not growing, and I don't want to take credit for this, but somebody else said this, but I completely agree with it. If you're not learning, you're not growing, you're moving backwards. You're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. And you're not standing still, because if you're not learning, things are passing you by, or people are passing you by. So you,
Right.
it's a constant, it's a constant learning. Continuous learning throughout your life is important. And if you're not doing that, then you're moving backwards.
So, Jeff, man, let me tell you, my marketing team, they're gonna have a field day with some of the nuggets and quotes that you said today. That's pretty powerful, man. I kind of like 1000% agree with you on that. If you're not learning, you're moving backwards. People think like comfort is cool. That kind of thing. I think if you're comfortable, you will be going backwards. Things are evolving so fast. I think like AI, like it's made us. It's like they one up each. Like these tech companies, they like one up each other like every month. Like Claude now this, and then now there's
Yeah.
another one that pops up. So it's interesting. You said a few different good things here. Let me ask you about talent. Would you describe your leadership style? You like I get this vibe of like player coach.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually a pretty good, because I'm a big, when you said it earlier, I'm a big sports guy too. I mean, I grew
Yeah.
up playing sports. I played junior college, played a year of basketball in junior college. So, and I still play. So I would definitely equate to that. I mean, I like to think of myself as sort of a leader. I mean, and I know that's kind of cliche these days, but I really wanted to my people to shine, because if they're doing well, then it looks like I'm doing well, kind of thing. And so I really tried to empower them. I've told them to be, entrepreneurs. Think of this
Oh,
like this is your little individual area where you're an entrepreneur. I want you to think that way. And I want you to work on skills and continue to grow and everything. But I want you to also share those with the group as you do that. And again, and obviously we're not, you can't get completely crazy and go buy a bunch of software and all that kind of stuff. You can't do that. But
yeah.
I want you to be an entrepreneur. I want you to
little,
come up
little
with ideas.
guardrails there for them a little bit.
Yeah, to a little bit of guardrails, but again, and I try to empower them and put them in
That's cool.
situations that are going to give them the opportunities to grow. We just promoted a couple of people on our team here in IT, and again, one of
From
them
help
was
desk, right? The ones you
from help
referred
desk,
earlier?
but
Okay.
also I also promoted some others and some
Oh,
other too. But one of them was in my office today, and he was saying something. He's like saying something, and it was pretty spot on to the direction we're trying to go for the next couple of years. And I say, that's the why you're sitting in the position you're sitting in. Your ideas and your innovation in that area have led you to where you are. That's why you're a director now, and that's why you've got this team and they report to you. I need you to get them inspired to do the same thing.
that's pretty cool, man. You give some feedback like that. I'm sure he left that office like feeling pretty good.
Yeah,
Because I'm sure like when you receive that feedback coming up, how good did that feel? When you look like the type like I bring my lunch pail, lunch box to work type kind of
right.
guy, like I'm old
Yeah.
school like that. And you grind, grind, grind. But when you hear that, man, that goes a long way. Sometimes more than money, you
Oh
know.
yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean,
let me ask you
that's
this, talent wise. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say those kind of things you can't buy that kind of loyalty that you get for that.
No,
Those and that's again throughout my career. It's definitely something I learned is providing feedback on the spot at the time when it happens. The other thing is learning how people like to receive that feedback. And we had a conversation in our management meeting last week about giving people the praise that they want, how they want it, at the right time. Not to get too far off, but some people like public praise and some people like the individual one-on-one stuff like that. So
you're right. Sometimes they look better, or like every personality is different. But let me ask you, like and I mean, it's always fun giving great feedback, right? That's probably the fun part of the job. What about like when you got to have that coming to, that hard talk? Like,
yeah, I mean,
like like what's been successful for you, man?
I think it's just being straightforward with the person. I mean, if you come to, let's hope it doesn't come to this, but if you come to the point where you have to let somebody go or terminate somebody, there should be no misunderstanding as to why that's happening. you
Like
know,
no, this shouldn't be a surprise.
it shouldn't be a surprise, kind of thing. It's like, oh, you know what? You're right. I get it. And there were some times early in my career where I didn't have those conversations at the right time. And
Okay.
I had a couple people, that I had to let go. And they're like, what do you mean I'm getting let go? I learned from those experiences, just be honest, be candid in your feedback. And when you do it, when something happens and it's, doesn't meet the expectations you had set, or doesn't meet the expectations of how you want their behaviors to, align with the company goals, just have the candid conversation. And people appreciate that. They may not always like it at the time, but I've had people come back and say, you know what, I appreciate you told me that. I'm going to make a change.
Is it pretty hard to kind of hold that? Sometimes initially, some people don't take feedback like it's a delayed reaction later, like meaning like they may appreciate it later, but at first they're like,
Yeah. Oh
they
yeah.
can be defensive. Like, how do you
Yeah.
hold that guard, man? Because that's not easy.
Yeah, it's not. I think one of the things that my current CEO has praised me on is my ability to adapt to the situation and not get emotionally, um, emotionally triggered in tense situations. He likes my calmness and the ability to, react, even though the world, maybe let's put it this way, the world around you may be on fire, but you're the calm one in the fire. That's
Oh,
the
I know you guys. You're like my best friend. Let me tell you, this guy doesn't get so like, he's like this. Like, he doesn't get mad, like super mad,
yeah.
and he doesn't get overly like high five crazy, but he's even keel. Are
Yeah,
you
but
kind of like a little bit like that?
kind of like that for the most part. I mean, there are definitely times, and you play enough sports. There are definitely times you get excited, and stuff. Um, but for the most part, yeah. I mean, I'm that even keeled. I mean, even in my personal life, I'm always the one when we had kids and they were small, and they get hurt or whatever, and they got to go to the
Oh,
emergency. I'm the one who would always take them or deal with them because my wife she'd be like panicking. I'm
I'm like, yeah,
like,
the
calm
world
down.
is ending.
Yeah, like it's okay. He might need a stitch or two, but he's going to be all right, or yes,
The battle scar. Like, what's the right?
he broke that bone, but it's okay. We'll
Yeah,
fix it. We'll get it cast on or whatever. But I've always had that. I guess even as a kid growing up, and stuff. It just
you've been.
but
I'll tell you,
translating that.
those make the best sports athletes because I think the guys that know how it's like handling pressure. They don't get overly, and scouts look for that. Like not too here, too there. They love the passion stuff, but they like the control better because this, sports is so game of failure, right? Generally, it's so tough. I want to hit on talent a little bit because I got to ask you this. What's the best way? What's been effective for you to attract talent? Like in the door, let's say, look, you exhausted internally. How do you attract talent in a competitive environment?
Yeah, I think that's been different throughout my career too. Um, if I'm talking about, with Strike, what we do currently, like
Okay.
we've had a couple of hires over the last. So one thing I'll say just real quick is that my team is pretty tenured, pretty seasoned.
Okay.
They've all been with the company. Most of them have been here 5 years or more. In this group in IT, and they've been with me through thick and thin, or through with the company thick and thin. But when we're attracting new talent, I think it's you lay it out as a leader who you are in those interviews. Like, this is my style, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do for you, this is how I'm going to help you grow. You're at this level right now, or you're applying for this position. I think based on what I'm seeing, for a great candidate, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to say, hey, based on what I see in you and I see your potential, this is where you're going to be in a year, this is where you're going to be in 2 years, this is where you're going to be
Yeah,
in 5 years if you stay with this organization.
that's awesome. Do you find like today, like in this market, over the last let's say 12 months, because I feel like it changes so fast. Are you finding people that are more financially motivated or opportunity motivated?
I think it depends on the person and
Sure.
what their financial standings are. Sometimes, yes, it is financially motivated, but you know, you can, you look at all the studies and you talk about people, and just again from dealing with people over the last 30 years, I think that money will buy you something, but at the end of the day, people will stay for a job that pays less if they feel valued and they feel they have are actually contributing and building to a greater good. They'll stay even if they make, you know, 5 to 10% less and they could go make somewhere else. It's all about the culture and what you develop as a leader, as your forget the company culture, the culture inside your group.
That's
You know,
what's up.
I've been in bad company cultures, but we had a good culture in the IT team, and people
Okay.
with
Oh,
you know,
that's
that
not easy
first
to do.
no. So like that first company I talked about working on the help desk because we moved up. I was with them for 13 years. As I moved in that company, we went through being bought and sold twice and two bankruptcies in that 13 years.
Whoa,
People stayed in the IT team because of the culture of the IT team. We didn't,
Jeff,
you know,
that's hardcore.
that's all. And so a lot of times, you know, in bankruptcies and M&A and mergers and stuff like that, it, people, they're like, first thing they hear, oh, there's a bankruptcy. Oh, there's a merger. I'm out. Peace. Bye. See you. You know,
Uh, it's uncertainty, right?
yeah.
And,
But
you know, that's such a true statement. That's hard to put to keep people together.
yeah, but we developed a culture of family, for lack of a better word. And we truly, because we did things together outside of work, we knew each other's kids and everything and stuff like that. And so we built that culture of family in the IT team. And I'll be honest, like, excuse me, I had a near life threatening injury, and
Oh
that
shit.
group supported me better than family did.
Oh
Uh,
shit.
like I was paralyzed completely for a period of
What?
time, and then went through a 9 month recovery. That company and that IT team stood by me. But again, those types of groups and family are hard to find in a company.
Damn.
And then, so that's ever since that, I say all that to say this, ever since that, that's the kind of culture I want to develop in my IT groups, in my teams,
Damn,
is
man.
that type
Then
of, we know each other, we got each other's back, and there's never a doubt, you know, of who we are and what we stand for as an IT group.
wow. And this is a previous company?
Yeah, that was the company that I started out on the help desk, my
No,
first
when you first
true
started.
IT job. Yeah. Like say
Damn.
I moved up I was there 13 years and I moved up, and that's that same company where like say, but you know, we went through all those bankruptcies, but I think all those times to get all those uncertainties, we banded like I said, we banded together as a family and we
You
just
can't
wrote it out.
for man. I'm glad to hear that you're good now, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that must have been really difficult for you and your family, man. And I could
Yeah, and it
imagine with your
was. And I
wife and
wouldn't
parents.
again, they supported us financially and everything. You know, from the
And you,
standpoint of,
so I'm assuming you stay very much in touch with those people.
yeah, we still do today. I mean, some of them are got a couple of them that are CIO friends. Some of them
That's
are,
awesome.
some of them have retired at this point, you know, but
Okay.
they're groups that group is we've stayed close over the we still, you know, I've moved out of that area and some of them moved all over the country and stuff, but we still keep up on Facebook. You know, we see their
Oh, okay.
families and stuff, and I've just watched that group, even the ones that, you know, were, you know, 19 and 20 years old, you know, now they got grown kids at this point and stuff. So it's
That's
amazing.
where you cut your teeth, man. Right, Jeff? That's where your first job, 13 years. I mean, what's the highest level? After 13 years, what did you finish off at the company?
Yeah. So I was the director of business intelligence, but I really had a quarter of the IT team reporting to me at that point.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so the only reason I left, and you can probably edit this one out, but the only reason I
Yeah.
left is because we did get bought by a larger competitor, and they were going to move all of the IT group to Jacksonville, Florida, and I was like, I'm not moving to Florida. So I,
Not
I made
moving to Florida.
I made the decision to leave at that point.
But the only other place I would live is Texas. Texas and Florida. My wife, by the way, is born and raised in Houston.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
uh,
like I say, I wouldn't have. Looking back today, I wouldn't have mind Florida, but at the time we had some young kids at this time, and we didn't want to move them out of. We had a lot of family support where we were and everything and
oh,
stuff.
that's
So
priceless. right?
Yeah.
Like that circle, that that extension, that your family helping and all that. That's priceless, man. So
Yeah, we had
trust me.
both our mothers were within like 20 minutes of us. So, if we needed
Ah,
anything or
so
whatever.
so
So
who won the argument about who got them first?
yeah, I went to my mother-in-law for that. I'll tell you that.
There you go. Yeah, like a true mine lives with me today. Like full circle. She lives with us today, and God bless her. So she's done. My parents are. I can't wait to have that opportunity. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I think it'll be super cool. When I like my wife's like, hold on, wait. Like, but I don't know about you, but I missed that stage, that
Oh
young
yeah.
stage.
Yeah, for sure.
It's totally cool. Um, man, you said a lot of great nuggets here. Let me ask a couple questions here. Um, what do you see? Let's say the biggest untapped opportunity for IT to directly impact revenue for a company.
I think it's not involving IT early in the decision making of initiatives. Um,
Good one, Jim.
there's a lot of times, operations make a decision, whether that's to open a new business line or something like that. And what do we have on the IT side that could help us drive revenue from that standpoint, whether that's, optimization of the procurement side, whether that's,
Hmm.
analytics related to opening something. And let's talk about a geography. So like for example, we're about to open an area up in Eastern United States.
Okay.
Um, there's a lot of we're in oil and gas. There's a lot of opportunities up there in the Pennsylvania and Ohio areas and things like that.
Really?
But we did a lot of conversations with the operations and the business team about here's the opportunities, here's what's up there, working with our CRM platform and then again our data lake and everything and doing analytics and saying, okay, these are where we should target, but they
Mm,
worked with us. And so we're helping to drive revenue like that from that
that's
standpoint. But I think for us, I think it's a lot of companies underestimate the value of IT and how they can help in those areas.
agreed.
That's just an example. There's plenty of other areas you can do from an IT perspective. A lot of companies see IT as a cost center. We're
Yes,
just a
sir.
cost center. We got to keep the lights on. Oh, those are the systems and the servers. But what that gets back to the stuff we talked about earlier was about relationships.
Yep.
Having a great relationship with your peers in the C-suite and on down through the company is important. Um, there's something I was reading in the it was an article I think on LinkedIn a couple of days ago. It was talking about how as a C-level individual, you need to make sure you're saying hi to everybody you meet in the as you're walking through the office. There's like absolutely no reason why you shouldn't say hi to people. As a human being in general, there's no reason why you shouldn't do that. But as a C-level person, how important that is, you know, for
Yep.
multiple reasons. But just to again, just to be from the human perspective, there's no reason you shouldn't say hi to somebody. There's no reason
Oh.
when we walk down the street we shouldn't say, "Hey, how you doing?" or "Hi," or at least a head nod, something.
It
Everybody
took
would be.
me a good. You used to remember. I'm from New York, so it's like somebody say hi to you, like, well, what's up? What's the game, right? But it's that's just joking. Like it's
Yeah,
different in style.
yeah,
But you're right. No, I think it sets the energy,
yeah.
sets the tone, and good leaders should be doing that, man. You're right. I love the fact that you said, you know, not just C-suite, right? Everybody, and that's critical. How in your organization, you also been doing BI and data for a long time, right?
Mhm.
Um, where does now with data, obviously is everything, and now with AI, like, have you married those things together and take it to another level?
Yeah, I mean, data has been equated to the new gold, essentially. Um,
Gold. Oh man, you're right.
for companies, going forward, you know, that's one of the things that we've shifted over the last couple of years is making decisions based on data as opposed to decisions based on gut feelings.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
that is so important in today's environment. In the past, it was like, I feel like we should do this. And I'm like, the data really doesn't support that. I'm sorry. You know,
Yeah.
um, we need to make decisions as a company. If you're not making decisions based on data, you're not going to be around long. And if you're not utilizing your data, whether that's, again, basic reporting, get into the, the various tiers of types of reporting from prescriptive, predictive to, and different things like that. But, if you're not doing something with your data and training your AI models and your machine learning to use it,
Mhm.
and to help you make better decisions, whether that's one of the projects we're working on is we've got this project that we're looking at all of our data and our systems from our previous performance on projects, our CRM opportunities data, weather data, and we're putting all those different sources together. And
Yeah.
basically, when we get an opportunity based on previous performance as a company, the weather that's going on that's predicted for the rest of the year in that area, in that geographical area, should we even bid on this project? you
Mhm.
know, because let's, for example, we know that down in Louisiana where it rains almost every day, it's kind of like
Mhm.
Seattle, um,
At Florida.
and it floods. There are certain areas that in the Lake Charles area, for example, in Louisiana, that floods constantly. And
Wow.
if you take a job down there, you're not going to make any money because you're going to have everybody sitting on standby time. And as a construction company, labor's your most expensive. Um, it's your highest cost. If your
That's right.
labor isn't working, you're paying them and they're costing you money. You're losing money essentially. So
Oh,
anyways,
that's
that's a
horrible.
project that we're working on right now is to develop um, that analytical um, application that will do that analysis and spit out,
Mhm.
a confidence factor of basically should we even bid on this project.
Kinda like a win probability, like, if it makes sense, or should you exhaust your resources more on something else, right?
Yeah, or should we, for example, like say those projects in Lake Charles at certain times of the year, during the rainy season, we shouldn't take those. And so
Mhm.
it can produce basically a profitability um, a- amount, or scale if we take this project. Whereas, we go down there in a different time of year, yeah, you can make money. So
Makes
basically,
sense.
it's a profitability predictor for lack of a better word.
Predict Wow. I mean, I love this stuff. So, like, IT is literally like, oof, I have a lot of my friends, CIO friends that say, like, they're a tech company that does construction, or a tech company that sells furniture, or do you feel like it's there? Do you feel like it's how IT is that prominent now? Like it's enablement for every aspect of the business?
I do. I don't think we're there yet as a company, but I think um, if you're not headed that direction, then you're probably not going to be around long as a CIO in that company because you have to have somebody that's thinking with that mindset. How can I making sure that all your IT projects are aligned with business initiatives is of the utmost importance. If you're not doing that as a CIO and you're still operating in the old school, IT is going to do this, and the business is over here doing this. We don't really care what they're doing, but we're going to do this. If you're
Yeah.
just doing your basic, we need to do an infrastructure refresh, or we need to do a laptop refresh, or oh, we got to refresh our switches this year. We'll keep the lights on, but I don't know what the business is doing over there. No,
A
you have to
business.
have you have to be having conversations with your business leaders and making
Mhm.
sure your projects align with business initiatives. And if they don't, they shouldn't be in your roadmap.
Absolutely. Wow. I mean, it's good. There's two different areas I want to definitely touch on because I think they're related, and I would definitely love to get your perspective on this. Um, can you share with me whatever you're comfortable with, my friend? Whatever biggest lessons learned in your career? Like you've been in the game for a little while. Anything you wish you had do over, or was that lesson like something that actually helped you propel?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few of those. I think definitely lessons learned. But I think one that comes to mind we talked about people in hard conversations.
Yeah.
I think it was early in my career as a manager, people manager. There was some conversations that I should have had with some people that I didn't, or I should. Speaking on the hard conversation, there was an employee that I should have had a conversation with because he got to that point where he was being let go and he didn't know why. And I,
Mm.
I was like, how do you not know why? And thinking back and looking back at that, and after I, year or so after that, I look back at that situation and I still look back at it and I was like, you know what, I should have done this better. It was communication. So that really is what I was getting back to, that candid communication and conversations, having them candid, whether that's good or bad, it doesn't matter. You have to have those conversations. Um, you know, and I would say one of the other
That's for sure.
lessons learned, one of the other lessons learned from me is, speak up. There have been times in my career and various meetings where I've held my tongue and it's come back to bite me later. You know, well, if you knew that, why didn't you say it? And there was an example, there was a technology that they were talking about rolling out, and I was like, I don't remember what the technology was, but I remember that there was an issue with it. And I'd read some stuff just because, like I talked about, I do that research on my own, and
Yeah.
I'd read some stuff on it, and I was like, that company is going to get bought, and that software is going to get changed, and the price of that software is going to double. You know,
Ooh,
I'd seen some information, it was just a kind of a rumor at the time, and I didn't say anything in the meeting. And, I was like, 6 months into this after we'd already bought the software and stuff. And I happened to be in a meeting and I made the mistake of saying, yeah, we shouldn't have bought that. I knew we were going to get bought. Well, why didn't you say something? And I'm like, oh, okay.
ooh.
And
That's
so I
after the
learned at
fact.
that, yeah, I learned at that point that, you got to speak up at
Yeah,
different times, and you got to say something even if it's not a popular opinion. You need
even if
diverse
not, that's good
you need
advice, man.
you need diverse opinions, and that's why you're in the meeting, you know. And if you're in a meeting and your leadership, whoever is in that meeting, they tell you to shut up, you know, then they're the wrong type of leader. You need to have a conversation with them offline, or you need to have a conversation at some point with their boss about, okay, this person's leadership style, his or her leadership style, is not conducive to an open atmosphere where we can have good conversations and make us
Yeah.
better as an organization. But
Oh man,
you
that's
got to be able to have those conversations, and you got to have those diverse opinions.
yeah,
You know, for sure.
critical. Critical. That was great. Thanks for sharing. And now let me ask you a good one here. This is always a good one. Change management, man. That's that. Me personally, I'll tell you, I always struggle with that because as an entrepreneur, I like moving pretty fast.
Right.
I feel like I have to, right? Um, so the change matter. How do you get everybody to like, let's go, right? Like, the lagging or like, adopting a new technology or you spend a lot of money or, you know, any best practice there.
Um, yeah, I mean, again, this is just the word according to Jeff, but for me, it's you kind of get in a room when we have a new technology we're rolling out, or so we get in a room and we talk about it, and we talk
Yeah,
about what are the pros and the cons, and we get everybody's opinion on it from that standpoint. And we're never going to get everybody convinced that it's going to, it's the right way necessarily all the time, but it's kind of like the old saying, you can please most of the people some of the time, and you can please some of the people most of the time. You try to get to that kind of that good balance of those where you've got the right people on board, and you get the right key people who are your kind of your, for lack of a better word, cheerleaders, and you get them on board, and then they can get the rest of the team on board. You know, but again,
you got to
it's
recruit for change agents.
yeah, you're kind of your change. That's a good word for it. Your change agents, and you get them on board, and then they disseminate that out to the rest of the team. But again, I still think you want to hear everybody's opinion. Everybody's got a voice. There's
Sure.
sometimes we have to say, you know what, I appreciate that you don't agree, but we've got to move forward with this. There's sometimes you have to do that as a leader, and you have to take on that responsibility yourself and say, you know what, I'll take the responsibility for it. Something goes wrong, it's on me. Um,
Yeah.
but sometimes you have to move forward. But again, it's definitely about hearing people out and understanding why they may not agree with that change, or moving forward in this direction. But um, again, if you got the right people on your team and you're already doing everything we've talked about as a leader,
Yeah.
if you're leading this way, you know where your guys are going to lie. You know where your team
Okay.
is going to lie whenever you get to a situation, about
That's
this or
true.
that, you know. And I'll be honest, I having known my team for, like say that most of them have been here 5 years, or more, like I have, and so I kind of know but even before we get to me, I know what they're going to say. Like, you know what? So I'm already preparing a rebuttal to that person's, if they're gonna what they're gonna say. I've already prepared a mental rebuttal. We get in the meeting and they'll say something. I'm like, yeah, I knew he was going to say that. And he's like, how'd you know? I'm like, because we've been working together for this many years. I know what you're going to say.
That's
I was
right.
like, so
How about the user community though? Like, let's say, because the one thing is IT, you guys are together and whatever, we got to move forward. But how about like, let's say, just move it to a new, I don't know, ERP system, CRM system, just for example. Like, they used to doing one thing, right? I used to see the screen. You could buy the most expensive, whatever, and oh well, it's not good. We all know it's good, right? But how do you? That's the one I struggle with a little bit.
yeah, I think that's a challenge a lot of companies run into whenever they do those rollouts.
Yeah,
Um, but I think that's why you have, like for us, one of the ways that I kind of help with that is, again, get those people, when we do those kind of projects. And a matter of fact, we're in the middle of a project like that right now. We're rolling out a new billing system. It's going to officially roll out February or March of next year is when it's going
you're
to.
Billy.
Yeah, we're doing our new billing system for our clients. But what
Mhm.
we did is we engaged all these people, all the stakeholders, early in the conversation. We went to them and said, okay, the old system does this, this, and this. What do you need the new system to do as we move forward into this new system? And they gave their list of criteria. And what we've done is we have monthly meetings every month to talk about. We're about 18 months into this project. It's a longer project than we normally have, but anyways, we engage them monthly and say, okay, this is where we are. Still meeting your needs. Feel comfortable. We're showing them the system where we are. Again, we're homegrown doing some of this, and so we're developing this stuff. And as we do it every month, we're showing them this is where we are. This is how you'll do this. You do it today this way. This is where you'll do it in the new system. We're getting their buy-in, you know, incrementally as we go along.
Like early on,
Oh
right?
yeah, definitely.
And training is, I guess I've been told like you can never do enough.
No, and that's we can't do training one time. You can't do a rollout and whatever it is. You can't train one time and expect that's your last training. And also the other thing with training is you have to make sure you're training people in the way they learn, because everybody
Mm,
learns differently. Some people are visual
very
learners.
true.
Some people
Very,
like a
very,
classroom style learning, and that kind of stuff. And so that's the other thing is so we do our trainings, some of them are in person, like we'll bring them into a conference room and we'll do the training that way. Some of them are on a Teams meeting. Like, we did a project a couple of years ago where we literally went to every one of our 13 offices across the US and trained people individually in the offices,
oh
from an
wow,
IT perspective on how to use this new system. It was a new time
that's
card
level.
system.
Oh really?
Yeah,
That's a commitment right there.
and we brought people in from the field, trained them on the iPads and everything, and how to use that application, and stuff. So all of our foremen and supervisors in the field, they all got trained. Like I say, we all brought them in, But again, we showed we were here to help and dedicated to making sure they understood what was going on. And again, it kind of gets back to that thing about the way you treat people. You got to treat
Yeah,
people with respect.
that's right. No, it's. I guess that sounds like the North Star though. Like if I listen to you, Jeff, and just it always kind of comes there. Like if you you gotta that's got to be the constant. Like that's where you start, and everything else kind of like it'll typically cooperate. Kind of there'll be. It's not like autopilot. Like marriage is not right.
Right.
It'll you'll work it out. You're saying, but that's got to make sure that's first.
Absolutely.
That's great advice, man. That's really good advice. This is great. So let me ask you a couple more real quick because I know we got to wrap up soon. But you give me too many nuggets here. I already wrote like just like 5 pages of notes, like just jotting a bunch of stuff down here. Um, I'm gonna have to have some freebie phone calls too, if you don't mind. But I promise you, I'll get you the right swag, the whole nine.
Oh, yeah.
um, Tell me, like, what's big bets out there? Any like fun stuff? Because I know you like this stuff behind the scenes, the IT stuff. Like you're a technologist, you like this. You don't bring home, you don't take around this stuff if you didn't like it, right?
Yeah.
What's a couple big bets out there you see next 2, 3 years? Because I think 5 is almost a lifetime in this business right now, though how fast it is. Like from an AI perspective, what are some of there that you see like happening out there?
Yeah, I think, again, the advancements in the analytics side is going to be important. Um, it- I think as we continue to grow and be able to get better at predicting and analyzing, companies' existing data, and predicting the future per se. Now, can't always do that well, but if you've got the right models and everything in place and using your data, you can do a pretty good prediction of what's going to happen from a market standpoint of what your markets and stuff. The other big one is the agentic AI. Um,
Okay,
your your agentic AI is going to be probably, I would say, it's probably the biggest game changer. It's going to touch every part of IT and every part of the business. You're going to, I hate to say it, but you're going to displace people in their jobs with it. Um, whether you move them into a different role and they're doing something, that requires more thinking and out of some of the stuff they're doing today, or unfortunately you're flat out replacing them. But if I was, a data entry person, or a lower end, finance clerk or something like that, where I'm not really doing an analytical job and all I'm doing is pushing buttons or typing in data, I would be very worried and I would be already upskilling. But agentic AI and the capabilities that it gives you as a company, to run things in the background without a human in the loop, it's definitely going to be probably one of the bigger game changers in the next 2 to 3 years.
I
I think
agree.
even in 5 years, I think it's going to be even more autonomous, than what we have today.
I it's been spot on, man. I can wind up talking to you for hours, brother, because like in any business too, it's not immune to like, I mean, obviously certain things, surgeries, even then, right? Because I've been to a couple healthcare conferences. I couldn't believe some of the stuff I saw.
Yeah,
But it's advancing and maturing and
we're
accurate, right?
yeah we're already seeing the first couple of phases of it, of AI's effect on the world and where we're going to be as far as workers. I'm sure you're in. Are you in Orlando? You said
Miami.
Miami.
No,
Sorry.
we cover the state. I mean, cover state, but yeah, I know
Right.
Orlando really well.
But you've probably already seen where you've been to McDonald's or Taco Bell or some of the other fast food restaurants where there's no longer anybody taking your order.
You
It,
know,
it's
it's
an
getting
AI taking
machine.
it.
You're
Yeah,
right.
forget that. No, when you go through the drive-through, you're speaking to AI,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
so
Voice agents and stuff like that.
there's no
100%.
longer, yeah, no longer anybody taking your order. And that's gonna, now I do know Taco Bell had some issues with theirs and they had to pull it back because they were still working off it. But that's going to be an area, there's plenty of other areas where, AI and the agentic AI is going to allow people's jobs, unfortunately, to be replaced.
I
Similar to
agree. Do you also, because I read a lot, I just love this stuff. So like, as I got later in my career, it's like, I just want to read more and more and just learn more, because how fast it is, but it's also going to create a lot of opportunities too.
agreed. Yeah.
So like there's some
I,
pretty big numbers. Like I'm shocked how many opportunities it'll create, but you got
yeah.
to be willing to change.
Yeah, exactly what you're talking about there. You got to be willing to learn. There are jobs that are going to be created. There's so many different jobs that are going to get created over the next 3 to 5 years that don't exist today.
That's
You know,
right.
like, 2 to 3 years ago, there wasn't a job title of prompt engineer.
That's
There are companies that are, it's gotten better now. It's not as much as it was, but 2 or 3 years ago, I was at a conference and they were talking about, there were companies that were hiring English majors to come be
hmm
prompt engineers
I
because
believe it.
they spoke well and they were articulate, and so they could write well and they could get the AI to do what they wanted to do with the right prompt. Because it's the biggest
100%.
problem. Even when you're talking to ChatGPT today, or pick your AI, whatever it is you're interfacing with, whether it's ChatGPT, Copilot, Bard, whatever it is, the better you are, with English, the better responses, or the more accurate responses, I should say, you get back.
You know, you mentioned earlier too, which I want to bring back up a little bit. Like you mentioned, communication skills at any level is it's number one, right? At how far you want to go, but it's also written communication. You
Great.
know, it's so important. And you're right. In fact, like the prompt engineer, it's almost like I hate to say it, it's like almost old news now, right?
Yeah.
It's like now the big word I've been hearing everywhere right now is orchestration, orchestration, like this orchestration, that, and it's evolving. Like a couple stats that I saw that kind of made my eyes a little like, oh, whoa. They're saying AI right now isn't, because of it, obviously there's unfortunate news that happened. A lot of people getting laid off with by some blue chip customers, big companies. However, though, it's about 85 million jobs are going to be produced by 2030, which is around the corner.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's like so like, schooling, and I feel like, adjustments need to be made. And I think it's more than just IT school, like, or going to degree in IT. I think it's versatile. AI has leveled the playing field, in my opinion. And, I think the companies that are forward thinking, like you said, like, jumping on it and accepting change faster are going to be the ones that, not just from a people, but as a company, get ahead,
Yeah.
get ahead big time. Like you
Agreed.
said, I wrote down what you said. It's kind of going back to what you said earlier about, here we go, learning. Like as a company, if we're not learning and adjusting, we're moving back.
Yeah. I was the conference. I was at Gardner conference. That's the one I was at in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and they were
Oh, okay.
talking about the keynote speaker. One of them was talking about how education needs to adjust how they're educating. They don't need to be
Agreed.
worried about are people using ChatGPT to write papers or anything like that. They need to be checking, can the people understand what they're writing or what ChatGPT is writing? Again, it gets back to that critical thinking. It's not a matter of, okay, yeah, they let ChatGPT write this for them. Great. Who cares? Or
Yep.
do they understand the context of the paper and what was written? You know, can they understand that kind of thing? And we
Absolutely.
were talking about changing the way he was talking about, education is great. But they need to change the way they're thinking and start teaching those skills we were talking about, critical thinking and being able to do that analytical, evaluation of a problem. You give somebody a problem like, okay, here's 10 popsicle sticks. Build me something out of that.
Yeah.
Build me a bridge or something like that. Basic analytical stuff, that you can do. Or here's a math problem. Um, I've forgotten it. I haven't used it in a long time. There used to be this. I would give all my applicants basically. It's I think I remember it now. It's you have 5 ball bearings. You have a scale, the old school balance scale. One of the ball
Hmm.
bearings is a different weight. How can you figure out which ball bearing it is that has a different weight? You can only use the scale twice.
Mm.
And again, I would
ChatGPT.
ask every one of my applicants. It was like, and again, some figured it out. Some were like, "Give me a piece of paper." They would write down and they would look at it, and but again, it's not a matter where you got the right answer or not. It's a matter of can you think through the problem and work through it,
For
kind of
sure.
thing. And those are the kind of skills
100%.
that we need to be teaching as educators and even as leaders. We have to teach, or try to look for those, and promote those skills.
Let me ask you this way. Like, remember, I guess what was it, 2022? Did it come like, okay. I mean, we both know AI has been a pop for a minute, but like where OpenAI really kind of took off, was it 2022 or 21? I can't remember. The
I
years
think
go by too fast for
I
me.
think it was 22. Yeah, at this age they all go by. It's a blur, but I 22.
So 22, right? Like, and like you just mentioned stuff that was frowned upon. And even in companies, like even in any company size, my organization, they were like, oh, but you're using AI to write your emails. That's like cheating. And it's like, now it's more like, it's a different perspective. Like it's more, my daughter said this, I got to give her credit. And she's only 24. She goes, it's become a little bit of a thought partner for her. It doesn't, it's just kind of like they vibe with each other. Like, the more you work with it, it may help you get there faster, but it's still you that you're thinking. Like you're bringing these things up and you're maybe kind of piecing it together faster because you got a cool thought partner that you can turn to any second, you
Yeah,
know? So I think, the more they start accepting that. I'm glad to hear the schools are changing their perspective on it because it's not cheating, right?
Well, I
Remember
don't
they
know
had
that I don't know
AI
they're changing
detectors.
it yet. They're not changing it yet, but
Not yet.
he's saying they need to change,
Oh, he's
instead of
fighting for it. 'Cause-
yeah, he was advocating for it instead of just being,
okay.
the normal rhetoric of, okay, here's your 10 things. I'm going to give you a test to see how much of this you remember. That's not what you need to be doing.
No, 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 no. But I agree. I think there's different perspective. I'm glad that you have that same way. So you encourage your team like research, like leverage, right? Leverage
Oh,
the
yeah.
text that's out there. Like,
I've given my team the GitHub AI
oh,
extensions,
sweet.
and I've given them Copilot. And I've said, if you're not using it, tell me why you're not using it, because there's
Mm,
no reason why you shouldn't be using it. I don't need somebody over there pounding out code, for 3 to 4 hours whenever you can just go to GitHub or go to Copilot and say, I need I need a you know a function that does this, whether that's in C sharp or whether it's Java or pick a language, whatever it is. I need a
mhm,
function because somebody else has already written a function that does that. Then you can transfer.
exactly.
If you need to modify the code, great. That's what I
Yeah.
want you to do. Is how do I incorporate that now into our code? From that
So
standpoint.
you're
And yeah,
encouraging it. So let me ask you, so why didn't why do some developers, because I hear this all the time, like, I was really surprised from a developer, why there was some of them, not every, but they're resistant on using the
again, I
stuff.
think it gets back to what we were talking about. They're worried about it taking their job, and to be honest, you're talking about those big companies laying off and everything. And that's what's happening is because they had all these software developers because it took X number of developers to develop, this number of applications or to build this much code. Well, you can cut that in, exponentially, you can cut that in half or even more by using AI. Because again,
That's right.
this type of code is out there. Or you can tell it, I need a function that does this, and then just fill in the variables or whatever you need to do specific to your application that you're building or to your integrations that you're building.
Yeah.
Why would you go handwrite that anymore?
So
God
you would
forbid.
actually, like, somebody comes to you and they go, like, nowadays, like, let's say they're, I don't know, Java developer, full stack guy, right? Now it's like, guess what? You can be now a very versatile developer across many different languages today,
Oh
right?
yeah,
So like, it's like you're working smarter, not necessarily harder. I actually have at ProSource, we actually have, we jumped in that about 3 years ago because we have to, right? It's like you said, if you're not doing this stuff, you're crazy, is you're going to be left behind. So I have a chief AI officer, and I found it took a while to get him, but he's here. Was super excited about it. But he says, imagine what AI does. He describes it like an Iron Man suit for everybody. Like you can put, your special weapons. Like you're
yeah,
going to be just faster, stronger, better. It's still your skill set, but you got superpowers now, and you can get to things faster. So
yeah.
I was like, that kind of hit me. I guess because I guess I'm a big Iron Man fan.
I was gonna say
But
that most Marvel fans can relate to that.
that's right.
I mean,
I love this stuff, man.
if you want to go really old school, or depending on most people nowadays won't even remember that, but you could say, it's like the $6 million man. You know,
Oh, now you're talking.
but the more recent ones, you could probably you're gonna have to go with the Iron Man or something like that.
Oh,
But yeah,
for the guys that we're probably working with,
yes,
absolutely.
yeah,
How about, I mean, as far as, people joke around it, but like, there's actually a movie I just saw. It's called Afraid,
I
but
haven't
it's
seen.
it's actually it's pretty cool. I think it was Netflix. But Afraid and the AI, the words, the two letters in there, Afraid was AI, and it was pretty cool. Like I would definitely recommend checking it out. And it was very, very, I feel like we have that now. And where what made me worried about it was like, there's bad actors out there still, right? That's what I get concerned with, like, because it's so powerful, it can also work for evil,
Right.
right? So it's like that's got to be, I'm assuming, security and fighting AI with AI, or that's got to be top of mind for you, man, Jeff. Right?
Yeah, it definitely is for sure. As we work, so our SOC is outsourced. So
Smart.
as we work with our vendors for that, Again, that's one of the first questions we ask. What are you doing with AI to combat, cyber threats? How are you using it? And again, we haven't run into anybody that doesn't say they're using it. It's more about finding the ones who are using it the best at this point. You know, it's like our MDR provider, their first line of defense is AI now, and then from there it gets kicked up to a human to review, but that is the first line of defense is AI in our cyber,
That's right.
our main cyber support, main cybersecurity posture is actually controlled with AI.
Look at that. Man, after we finish, I mean, if you could share that with me later, I'd love that. Because I mean, we're looking as well.
Yeah,
Um, I want to be in that circle with you, man. You got a lot of, you already did due diligence. Let me
yeah.
ask you this one last question for you because I forgot to ask you this. Um, People say vendors, like vendor lists or as vendors. How do you make the partner list?
So for partners, for me, again, it comes down to the relationship. Um, there's plenty of vendors. I get all kinds of emails and phone calls from vendors who
Oh,
want to sell.
and Jeff, not, no,
Sorry,
that's,
right?
no, not, and now with AI, you probably get 1,000 more, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I get all kinds of emails and all kinds of everything about, hey, we want to sell you this or we want to sell you that, and stuff like that. But the ones who who take the time to understand our needs, I'm not talking about my needs as a person. I'm talking about company
Yeah.
needs. We have a problem we're trying to solve. How can we make your company better? How can we help your company? Let's be honest. In IT, if you're not thinking about revenue, then you're again, it gets back to that whole, if you're not aligning yourself with the business and how can I increase revenue? How is this bottom line? How is this going to affect increase my revenue, whether that's reducing costs, through EBITDA or whatever, stuff like that. So getting back to the vendors, if they're coming in and they're talking about, okay, this is how we can affect your bottom line with this. If we, like, for example, we've added a few different cyber tools this year. We've actually added Rubric on the cyber appliance side, on the immutable backup side. As I went to my CEO and said, okay, look, it's going to cost us X number of dollars to put Rubric in place. And he's like, sticker shock. And I'm like, okay, hold on. Let's talk about the problems
It's
that this
always
is
that.
going to solve.
Yeah.
Like, here's what it's going to give us. We have a 10-minute to 1 hour response time that within 10 minutes to an hour, I'll have every system in this company back up and running if we do have a breach. And he's like, you know what? You should buy that. I'm like, I thought you would say that. Let's buy this. Okay. So again, it gets back to how, from a vendor perspective, how are you going to affect my bottom line as a customer? And then again, it does get into somewhat of the personal relationship. I mean, I've got a couple of vendors right now that I'm dealing with that they could probably help us on the bottom line, but I'm gonna be honest, they're a-holes, and I'm not going to deal with them because there's other products out there that that I can work with that do the same thing. Um,
Sure.
but again, that first line of defense or first level it for me is how are you going to help me as a company make us better, make us more, whether that's more resilient or how are you going to affect our bottom line with this product?
Thank you for sharing, man. Because I think I'm on a quest just to understand a lot of that. And, it's helpful. It's helpful. I think it's helpful for, whoever's listening to the podcast too. There's a lot of, you know, vendors, partners, they all listen and stuff like that. I think it resonates. I think it's not sheer numbers, man. It's like you got to step back a second
Yeah,
and do some homework, and then bring stuff up. I learned this year, like, especially for an AI, which is I'm having a blast with. A couple of CIOs that we did some voice agents for, and I say, what do you want to prioritize? Where it's going to be the most effective product? Both of them said productivity is cool. It's really cool. Trust me, we need it, but more on the opportunity side, it's better. Like revenue, like bring in more X, bring this, because I feel like you're right to your point. CIOs absolutely are the business now. They're the ones like, it's enablement, right? Like, every company you have to like, I don't know a company, I can't even think of a company that is not, using AI in some form or fashion, and the ones that are able to be that effectively are going to eventually drive more revenue and win more market share. So it's good to see what's coming. Like I've been like you in the game for 30, and I remember just seeing it evolve, like the different chapters. And now it's boils down to like how can you help a company move forward
Yep.
in different ways. So thanks for sharing, brother. I really appreciate it. Jeff, man, I had a blast. I mean,
Yeah. Thank
um,
you.
your
Fun.
wealth of knowledge, brother. Your wealth of knowledge, and you speak great, and you know how to communicate in an effective way where I can understand, which is a big deal. That's a
Yeah.
big deal. So I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you in Houston and Inspire. We got to give us a little shout out to Inspire folks, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing.
Yep. Thank you.